It is Tuesday, rawmike.richards.com, broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto, 234 King Street East out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. Coming up this morning, one of my good friends, Scotty Taylor. He is back. Scotty's up. Remember that from the old days. Lots to talk about. The Leafs winning streak at home ends at the hands of the Buffalo Sabres. All right. What the hell was that all about? Playoffs around the corner in this city, that being Toronto, for the first time in... Well, even though they'd say, yeah, but last year was the same thing. But there is an expectation this year. What are the realistic expectations? A couple teams not going to postseason fun. Calgary Flames, you kind of smelled out when that was coming. Got to wonder what changes will happen within the Flames in the offseason. They could be busy. You have the Golden Knights, Dave. 1 year in, first year, playoffs. Of course, the problem is, not the problem, the reality is a lot of this was almost preordained by what? January? for some of these races?
I'll get into some crazy stat about the Vegas Golden Knights a little bit later on in the show that you Maple Leaf fans will love to hear.
You know that's not good. Also, we're going to look back at some classic moments. We had some David Lee Roth sound yesterday, which people really liked. I've got an album that he did, and no one heard it. Also, hockey sponsorship. Everything is sponsored. I got one of the classic Mike Richards bits on maybe how you can increase revenues by these kinds of sponsorships. And although when I did it, I was kind of making it up. It's not that far from the truth now. But it was the response of Ken King, the president of the Calgary Flames, on the other end, listening to it. Pretty stern guy. He's a big guy, kind of a tough negotiator. Yeah, not when he heard this bit. So we'll get to that as well. But starting off, I suppose, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are, I guess if you counted the spots, they were 25 spots ahead of the Buffalo Sabres in the standings.
That's it, eh?
It's 25.
Yeah, if there was a 50-team league, it would be higher.
Well, and so it's like the equivalent of what? Chelsea or... Arsenal playing
Crystal Palace
playing
in a relegation game.
like seriously, because the Sabres would be relegated.
Yeah,
he used to talk about that a lot, and of course people always get mad when he talks or writes. Bruce Dobigan said, "It'd be interesting if they went to that relegation." Can you imagine? So you're sitting there, and you're who? You're the Buffalo Sabres. It'd be disastrous for the Edmonton Oilers. But can you imagine being in the bottom three and you have to go to the only way you could do it is you include the AHL. I think that's the only way.
Or dump 10 teams down and only have like a 21-team league kind of thing. And,
either way, Dave, when you think about it, can you imagine you spend all that money, you got Connor McDavid, and then you go down to the AHL and you start playing Grand Rapids and Norfolk and
Wilkes-Barre, yeah.
And so you can understand why in the Premiership.
Let's call it NHL 2.
Yeah. If you're a fan of your pro team in the biggest league, and then you get dropped down, and this is the problem that you have when you're, I don't know, whether you're like Newcastle, like a storied franchise, all of a sudden you were down and you were playing, whether it be Burnley or Charlton Athletic or you make the example that you want to make. But Dave, can you imagine if you spent and you had season tickets, and then all of a sudden, that's the teams that you're seeing. And that's why they're going, it's going to cost us millions.
Yep.
Because people may not want to go to it. It's a disaster financially to be relegated. And that's why Bruce said, well, maybe this ought to clean things up. Now, again, I can't see it happen. He did it for the sake of argument because that's what Bruce likes to do. And It was kind
Bruce
of
argue?
Yes.
No.
kind of fun to think about, though. Can you imagine?
Well, here's the first 5 NHL 2 teams coming up in this brand new season. Do you want
okay, so let's
to go into it?
let's-
And there'll be some sad people that we know out there listening because there's a couple of fans on a couple of these franchises. So I just wanted to introduce the new teams of NHL 2.
NHL 2. Well, actually, they have to be. Oh no, you call it what you want. NHL. You want to call it NHL 2? NHL 2 it is.
Well, give me another one. Fire away.
Because they don't want, because it used to be first division.
Oh,
It was the one
so
just
the-
outside, because it wasn't the Premiership
So
or the National.
this should be NHL Championship League?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they call it. They go, we know it's not. You know, they call it championship, so that's what it is. Yes, I think that's perfect. Okay, you ready? So here, the dawning of a new age in the NHL of relegation.
Yep.
David Bastel.
Thank you. First off, and the top seed, meaning the lowest seed, the Buffalo Sabres.
Wow.
Welcome to the Championship League.
Yeah.
Arizona Coyotes, you're here to stay forever. Vancouver Canucks, I wouldn't be upset at all if the Canucks were part of this forever.
Relegated.
That'd be great.
Vancouver relegated.
And it gets better for Maple Leaf fans, the Ottawa Senators.
Oh my
I
God.
know. And for Ted the Viking, the Detroit Red Wings.
Ouch.
Remember how good you used to be? Like when I was a kid? Not no more.
Can you imagine?
Back to you, Mike.
That is unbelievable. So now you probably don't have the top AHL teams in front of you. But
No,
if-
but it wouldn't be hard to get.
Because if you're sending, in the way relegation works, I know that a lot of people don't know, or they're not soccer fans. Relegation, so what you send down 4, you sent down 4, so 4 have to come up. So you will take a look at what technically is the, as Dave is now calling it, the NHL, the championship. So NHL championship, 4 have to come up.
See, it sounds nice when you call them championship.
Well, that's why they got rid of Division 1. They said
Because clearly
it's not Division 1. Yes, it is.
there's nothing.
You're calling it championship.
There's nothing good.
Yeah, you get
about
relegated. It ain't Division 1. It is Division 1, but they say championship.
Okay.
So you have to look at the top 4 teams in the AHL, who is coming back up, and then they get to be in the show.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show, Toronto Marlies.
Oh, nice.
Toronto
Can you imagine
Marlies.
that? That's
Welcome-
awesome.
Welcome to the show, Syracuse Crunch.
Not bad. Isn't that interesting? Okay.
Yep. Welcome to the show. Let's see, before I get into that, the Manitoba Moose.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Welcome to the show, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Because who doesn't like going to Lehigh Valley?
Okay, you lost me there. I don't even know that team.
Yeah, it's a Philadelphia Flyers affiliate. They're actually pretty good.
Really?
They're like the second best team in the conference. I missed the number because Toronto's first and Lehigh Valley is second.
That's right, because Binghamton now is the Senators, correct?
No, Belleville.
They changed it again?
Yeah, they're in Belleville.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because they actually draw. That actually has been a pretty decent AHL team for quite a while.
Yeah.
Regardless, because at one time, I think Binghamton was the Flyers at one point, I believe, way back.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they flipped around.
Yeah. So those are your teams, and then
Wow.
a special mention to the Providence Bruins. Providence Bruins would come in at number 5. So I mean, there's you make your trip to Boston, you go to Providence really quick. You know when you're.
But look at the difference. Look, so for those that come up into that league, it's like the best thing ever. But now you'd have those teams
In the National Hockey
in
League.
the National going, well, who's going to buy season tickets? That's the problem with relegation.
Yeah.
That's why when certain teams go down, they're like,
Be kind of cool when you go to Toronto or you go to Winnipeg. You play 2 different teams in the same rink, basically.
can you imagine?
First, you have a game against the Marlies. Then you play the Maple Leafs on Saturday.
Oh, big game tonight, Marlies, Leafs. What the hell's going on? Dude, a lot of people like to see that. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, it's a head-to-head, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Sell some tickets.
So as we get a little closer, you knew that obviously the Golden Knights
Oh, yes.
were going to clinch. They
Yes.
they did last night, and it's still a great story. Like regardless of what happens, and the real question is, now you're going to go into the Western Conference playoffs, and it's not like they haven't played these teams all year. They've beaten most of them, but now you're playing hockey in April and May. And so the collective feeling is what? There's still this underlying current that it's been a great season, a great story, and when it comes to the playoffs, the weight of it is going to have them fold. Are they folding?
The Maple Leafs, yeah, they're
No. The Golden Knights.
oh yeah,
because
they're folding for sure. They're folding faster than the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs might actually put up a little bit of a fight. Vegas Golden Knights will crunch.
So the possibility. So they're playing who? Who do they get
right now? Because it moves from week to week. The Vegas Golden Knights, as Pacific Division champions, they would face the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings will murder the Golden Knights.
You know how cool that would be, though, in terms of traveling.
Oh yeah,
an LA
covering
Vegas?
that series. Woo-hee.
Yeah, your money.
That might be the best possible matchup as a media person to travel between cities.
And
maybe like you'd want to throw New York City in there, but I mean Vegas, LA.
Oh, Vegas, LA. Vegas, LA. Oh yeah, that's
Ooh.
that's a scene from Entourage.
Hopefully it goes to 11 games, not 7.
That's Turtle and drama.
Yes,
and,
it is.
E. Oh, that's a fantastic series.
Yeah, because right now Nashville is more than likely going to be the #1 seed, and at this current time, even though it's not locked in, it's the Colorado Avalanche facing Nashville. St. Louis is a point behind Colorado. Dallas is doing everything in its power not to make the playoffs right now. They are trying their best not to make the playoffs.
If I'm looking at that weird, let's go back maybe 3 years. So Jim Nill goes down to Dallas.
Yes.
And that first year, I would probably put them in the category of overachieving, right? Because they kind of have a great, maybe even a better year than I thought they would. Then they take a step backwards last year. So I thought this year, Dave, would be the balance of what they're supposed to be doing down in Dallas, and it's not happening.
Nope.
And goaltending also again an issue.
Ben Bishop sucks.
Like
seriously,
this was not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I totally agree with you.
And we love saying Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop. Who's Ben Bishop?
Ben Bishop.
Ben Bishop.
Well, yeah, and he's called the show before, so it's it's disappointing, but nonetheless, it doesn't seem that Ben Bishop is the same goaltender that we saw with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now with the Dallas Stars, hopefully things get turned around because there's a lot of good people in that organization, including a friend of the show, Jim Nill. And so they have to go after signing Tyler Seguin in the offseason, figure things out. What do you do there? Because you have Jamie Benn under contract. You're going to give him more money, probably have to get him signed up. We'll see. But the Dallas Stars haven't done themselves any favor, especially in the last 2 weeks. Dreadful. Just dreadful.
It's again, just grossly underachieving, and that's what costs people their jobs.
Yep, exactly. So, let me get back to this Vegas thing because I wanted to mention. Sorry, I'm just texting with our friend Scott Taylor, and he's up in about 15 minutes. So Vegas not only clinched the playoff yesterday with 103 points, but with Vegas getting their 103rd point, they have tied the Toronto Maple Leafs as far as in their 101 years of existence. Okay, the Toronto Maple Leafs have been in the NHL for 101 years. The most points the Maple Leafs as a franchise have ever got in a season is 103. Vegas did it in less than 365 days.
That's just weird. Like it really is a very strange story. It's a good one.
It's there, yeah.
And people are hoping that it continues now. So I think they will pull up. Like if they get Boston, it just kind of. All right, Russell, we'll get you in this. We don't have your. Actually, maybe we do have your music. We'll get some kind of music. But I just think if they're playing the Bruins, and considering, let's say that of relative health for both teams, because I think you have to put it that way.
Yeah, Patrice Bergeron's back for the Boston Bruins. He looked pretty good in Minnesota. 2 points, 19 minutes of ice time.
Is this a 7-game series? Is this 7 games? If they play the Bruins, is that a 7-game series?
I think it.
Okay, I have no idea why that's not working. Oh, there it is, because it's loose and crackly and shit. All right, try it now.
Weird.
There we go.
There we go.
That never happens.
Yeah.
I definitely think it has the potential to go 7 games. The Leafs have played Boston great over the last 2 seasons. They're 7-1. Or 6-1 in the 7 games against them over the past 2 seasons. I think it'll be a better series than most people are giving the Leafs credit for. I know Boston has been outstanding this season. They've played way above the expectations I had for them at the beginning of the season. But I think it's going to be a good series. I think the people aren't giving the Leafs as much credit as they deserve.
Well, look at last year. Last year, would you have thought that the Leafs would have put the series together against Washington going into it? I certainly didn't.
I did. I thought that was a broom.
Yeah.
I thought that was a broom for the Washington Capitals, and the Maple Leafs played well. But then it's also the Washington Capitals that seem to pack it in as soon as the calendar hits April, right? So it's one of those scenarios. I just don't like the scenario of the Maple Leafs attempting to shut down one of the best lines in hockey, because everybody's back. Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak are once again together, and Patrice Bergeron will completely shut down Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews may not score more than 3 points in this series. Mark my words.
How do you feel about that, Russell? That's hurtful words. Those are damaging words. Yeah. Just keep smacking it, Fonzie.
Hey.
Okay. We may not attempt going to Russell for the rest of the show.
That's okay.
It just, that was, boy, I'll tell you. Yeah, it's on now.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. What's going on?
No, I was just going to say, even if the Bergeron line shuts down Matthews, I will match up the rest of the 3 Toronto lines over any Boston line.
Ooh.
The Bergeron line is probably the best line in hockey. I don't think... Does Boston have 3 30-goal scorers on 3 different lines?
Yeah, Dave.
No, but they have a fairly decent line with Rick Nash, and watch out for that. And when Chara comes back, I want to see this. I want to see the two teams healthy. I want to see them completely healthy, because right now a lot of people are forgetting Charlie McAvoy out, Zdeno Chara out. Rick Nash is hampered by a day-to-day injury. So those are 3
and
key
you got him for the
players
playoffs anyways. It's
and
not.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with the regular
Maple
season.
Leafs relatively healthy for the most part. Let's hope that the bumps and bruises of Nikita Zaitsev are finished, because they need this guy in the lineup, because he's arguably a 3 on this team, and they can't lose players like that. Ron Hainsey has to start showing what Ron Hainsey did at the start of the season, because in the last 2 weeks, you are seeing evidence that the mileage on Ron Hainsey's season is starting to act up, and the car is starting to sputter like that microphone over there. So that's what I need to see.
Well, and of course, as you know, once teams make it into the playoffs, that's extra revenue. The owners are very happy about some of those monies. And as we said, we'd go back and play a classic. This goes back to the Fan 960 in Calgary, Dave. So I'm going to play this in front of Ken King, who is the president and CEO of the Calgary Flames. And I thought I came up with an idea for their play-by-play broadcast to make even more revenue, which is really what teams need. This is how it went. So because we are the voice of the Calgary Flames, and he is the CEO of the Flames, maybe we'll give an example how increased sponsorship might increase revenues.
Carolina now having trouble getting on their own zone. They will dump it down the ice, and that will be called for icing. Here, the icing brought to you by Betty Crocker. Betty Crocker Kanks. Betty Crocker, she's sweet on you. There's a look at Kerry Fraser with 12:52 left to go in the first period. Kerry Fraser on a long skate alone. Are you alone for long? That skate brought to you by One-on-One Dating Service. One-on-One Dating Service. Look who's scoring now. Kerry Fraser set to drop the puck in the Carolina zone. If you want to get in the zone, Valley Fitness Club. Valley Fitness Clubs of Canada. Stop being such a fat pig. Here's Kapanen now looking for the head pass. Hey, are you looking for head? Guinness.
Oh.
Guinness beer. Since 1410 brewed in Dublin. Guinness beer. That's the head you're looking for.
Yeah.
Now Ron Francis dumps it out in the center ice area. Goes back in. Here's the Canadians now. Adet goes off a skate. And a long shot now. Theodore with an easy save. Hey, have you been saved? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Something special in the air.
Oh, that's terrible.
At the 10-minute mark now of the first period. They're still fighting for it. We're going to take a break now on the radio network. Carolina 0, Montreal 0, no score. If you haven't been scoring, Dirty Alice's House of Slap and Tickles. Dirty Alice, what have you done to my body? Back after this.
Well, it's 7:10.
I love it. And so does Ken King.
Oh, man, I haven't heard that before.
Well, what do you think, Ken? Good idea?
Okay, I'm in.
I'm just trying to help, Ken. That's all.
Is that the first time you played that?
I don't know if it's the first time we played it, but
Oh, man.
yeah. Well, you know,
Okay. Okay.
You know, there
Thanks
are-
a lot, you guys.
Yeah.
See you later.
Good morning, Mr. King.
Good morning.
yeah. Well, I figured we got to do something. I
Oh,
don't-
man.
I don't know if I
I
can.
don't know which one's my best, but Guinness and being saved is right up.
Yeah, both the same bit too. I'll tell you, I'm going to hell quickly. I'll tell you that.
Oh, you and me both.
There was Ken King. That was a beauty. That was so awesome to do that. You're watching rawmikeRichards.com, or you're watching on the dedicated YouTube channel. We appreciate that. Scotty Taylor, one of our good old friends, and he was a regular when we were on the air in Calgary. So it'd be great to get him back on. We've got some classic moments with him too, but we're certainly lots to talk about when it comes to the Jets. Dave, I guess really, as you get towards the playoffs, if you're a Jet fan, is the only thing you're thinking about is just the relative health of Patrick Laine? Is there anything more than that the current Jets fan is thinking about?
Well, I think the keys to this team is, can the goaltending hold up in the playoffs like we've seen in the regular season? Is Jacob Trouba going to be ready to go when they drop the puck in the postseason? Because this guy is arguably a 1-2 on this team. That's how good he's been. And then you have to look at the banged up forward position. Mark Scheifele's back from double injuries. Can he maintain? Patrick Laine seems like he's skating properly, which is great. You don't want to re-aggravate anything there. I don't think that's a concern. But other than that, they've already lost Dmitry Kulikov. He's going to be back next year. That kind of sucks because he's a 4-5 on this team. I think outside of those, positional players, teams are going through this right now. Every single team has something they'd like to fix or Band-Aid or bandage together. Jets are no different than anybody else.
By the way, before we move on, this is a weird stat. Like I look at Buffalo, and there are certain teams that are always a pain in the ass to other teams. For years, if you're talking about the Blue Jays, it was the Tampa Bay Rays.
Sure.
It wouldn't matter what
And
it was.
doesn't matter where Tampa Bay was.
It didn't matter. I'd say for the Raptors, teams like Charlotte. Charlotte, for some reason, would always have these weird records. So Phil Housley has played the Leafs as the coach of the Sabres. He's had 9 career games. Mm-hmm. What do you think his record is against Toronto?
I'm going to say 5-3.
It's 7-1-1.
Wow. Okay.
That's ridiculous. That truly is ridiculous when you think about where those teams would have been in that relative period of time. Now,
I guess 5-3 is only 8 games, so I kind of messed up.
well,
on
no,
the
I
number
think
there, too.
if it goes to overtime, I think it counts as another game. I really believe that's how it works. A couple of minutes, we'll go to Scotty Taylor. We'll talk again as basketball gets a little bit closer. I just talked about pain in the ass. I think for the Raptors, and this is just my feeling anyway, you have to have won something and won it consistently before I start talking about essentially the culture of winning. So that's why when I take a look at games like Brooklyn, I look at games that they had against the Clippers, I look at just sort of what they're doing lately. Because this is the time of year where when you're a professional, you take a look at these games and you got to put them away. Now, if you come back and win in a game that you didn't deserve to win, generally that falls under that sort of culture of winning. But what I find is that second unit that's been so good all year, I mean, now you have the second part of this season, and no one gives a rat's ass about what happened in the regular season. And if they're going in playing a team, let's say like Miami has, for some reason, been a tough matchup. I think if Whiteside probably, I knew he was hurt. Now he's back in a healthy Miami. I'm just wondering. It's just a given by a lot of Raptor fans somehow that they think that they're just going to walk all the way and face a Cleveland Cavalier team. Be careful about that. Now, have they played better against the teams that they're going to see, like the Indianas, like Milwaukee? Because I think Milwaukee, to be honest, has underachieved this year. I thought they would be better than what they've been. But that's the regular season. Once it gets to where it counts, then if I'm looking at NCAA basketball, then I'm taking a look at teams like Syracuse, who I didn't think even deserved to get in. I'm looking at teams that had a second season like Florida State. Florida State was it was debatable going in how hot they were going to be. They went further than I thought. Now I'm going to get into Loyola Chicago because no one ever sees them. So you think that they were good all year. They have played that kind of basketball with that kind of execution since the moment the ball tipped off. But there are some teams now that are just making a huge run. Michigan might be at the top of the list who's made that huge run. Of course, then you got Villanova on the other side, and Villanova, once again, has been good from the very beginning. So where are the Raptors? Going into this, are the Raptors the kind of team that has played their way into the playoffs where you see a surge, or is it the other way around? Are you seeing them pumping the brakes a little bit? Are you seeing a little bit of indecision, a lack of focus? Because I think it might be the latter. Not to read too much into only a couple of games, but this is the playoffs, and it is a man's league when it gets in there. It gets a little bit rougher. All of a sudden, those whistles, you'll find that they get put away in the pocket, Dave.
They do. Well, when you look at losses to the Clippers, to the Cavaliers the other day, they get by Brooklyn barely because of a fourth quarter. They get by Orlando barely because of a fourth quarter. Good play-in games, by the way, if you're betting live bets. Those two games, magnificent.
Gambling.
So it's the kind of thing where maybe as a Raptors fan, if you're looking at this very optimistically, get the kinks out right now because you have a handful of games before the lights go on for real. And you're right. Face right now, it would be the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat-Toronto matchup is not the best matchup, even though it's a 1 versus 8 for the Toronto Raptors. But then your other poison is, and maybe they'd rather, even though they have a significant star on the team, the switch between 7 and 8 in the East are the Milwaukee Bucks.
See, they're the team that falls into that category of underachieving and then trying to find life in a second season, and they might be in that category.
Well,
when you got the freak, you always got a chance.
Yeah, and when you're looking at, say, a possible Milwaukee-Toronto first-round matchup, all the players on the court at one time, one player is by far the best player of everybody, and it's not on Toronto.
Yeah,
so
I agree, Dave. I agree. Like, as much as I love DeMar and what Kyle do, there are guys that they're going to face who actually are, I think, superior talents on the floor at that time. LeBron obviously being one of them as well. And when you start talking about LeBron, he has been that way since he was literally a child. So just before we get to Scott Taylor, have you ever seen LeBron when he played for, I think it was St. Vincent St. Mary's out of, was it Akron? Out of Ohio, when he was a high school student.
I've seen one game because at the time, ESPN actually covered one of his high school games on national TV.
But let me ask you this. Have you ever seen LeBron with hair?
I remember it just faintly, but no, I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Here is a piece from ESPN, I believe, that they did looking at LeBron talking to his mom and talking about high school basketball and how he saw himself all those years ago. And you know what? Aside from the weirdness of the hair, he really hasn't changed his message since he was 16 years old. Once again, property of, I would say, probably the NBA broadband properties, and broadcaster ESPN. Have a look. And where'd the sound go? Beauty. So we are not running that. I just love that stuff when that happens. So you know what? I'll tell you what. We've got
it's the best.
Scott Taylor coming up here. And we're going to play something for him that he hasn't heard in years, which was his original theme song that was done by the Rolling Stones. Few people know that.
Well, Rolling Stones and Scott Taylor have a very good relationship. They have known each other for years, and friends within friends. So it's no surprise that this happened.
So let's go to the magic of this particular system that we're using right here, and all of a sudden, are you kidding me? This isn't working either. Wow, this is really where we are taking off here today. Here on live on the camera. Let's see if it's going to snap. Well, it says it's calling, but I don't think it is. Dave, why don't you take over here, and I'm going to.
Let's take a look at the
shit out of this thing.
Let's take a look at the out of town scoreboard, Rusty. If you want to put it on me and go help MR, That would be fantastic. Yesterday in the National Hockey League, you know the Sabres beat the Maple Leafs 3-2. You also know that Florida 3-0 winners over the New York Islanders. Florida setting up nicely in that 9 spot, wants to get to 8. If they can get to 8, not a bad matchup when you look at Florida versus Tampa Bay in the first round. It's a possibility, folks. Carolina 4-1 winners over Ottawa. It was Washington 4-2 over the Red Wings. Make that the Rangers yesterday. Speaking of the Red Wings, they lose once again. Montreal 4-2 winners over Detroit in a game that nobody watched. Arizona 4-1 winners over Tampa Bay. Picked a bad time for Tampa Bay to be losing this one. Louis Domingue, by the way, the goaltender of record in the Coyotes' net. It was San Jose needing a shootout. They get by Chicago 4-3. Vegas 4-1 winners over Colorado in a possible 2 versus 7 matchup in the Western Conference. That's the second time they faced each other in the last couple of days. The two teams splitting it up. Los Angeles 3-0 winners over the Calgary Flames also was the late game. And we have Scott Taylor's phone. Yes.
Piece of garbage, that thing, I got to tell you. That's how it works. We are looking for Scotty Taylor.
Is this Mike Richards?
This is Mike Richards. You're live on the air because I almost lost it because this equipment is shit in a shit studio in a shit town.
I haven't had a good laugh like that in about 8 years.
Okay. Well, do you want a little flashback here? Here is the original
flashback. Boy, that's a long time ago.
Here is the original Scott Taylor theme, as provided by the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah, back in Calgary.
Yes. Here we go. Here it comes.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Winnipeg. Oh!
Here, every Tuesday and Thursday is what it said. The Scott Taylor theme.
Scotty's up. Scotty's up, and he's talking tough.
Talking tough.
Scotty's up.
Oh yeah, I was so
Scotty's
tough.
up, and he's on the cuff.
Oh yeah.
The bomber's talking tough.
It was pretty good.
Tuesday, Thursday, Scotty's up. Scotty's up.
Oh, such good memories. Great to have you back on the show, my friend. We'll do this on a regular basis because boy, I miss talking to you. That was so much fun in the day.
Why you haven't called me anyway? I haven't moved anywhere.
Yeah, I guess there is that.
Still out in the damn prairie, freezing my behind off.
Yes, but with a good hockey team, though, all of a sudden.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't that? Well, I'm sitting across from a man he has timed the birth of his children around the birthday of his favorite Jet, which, by the way, can you guess who that would be?
Remember, I'm an 80s boy.
He's an 80s boy.
80s boy. Oh, Dale Howardchuk.
Yes,
That's right.
yes. It's on the same day. 2 of them. I don't know if there's a shaman in some Métis village that allowed him.
What day is that?
April 4th, Scotty. Good morning, by the way. April 4th is the
That's
youngest.
Right. Yeah.
And that's Howardchuk's birthday.
Yeah, I knew I was close. I'm April 20th.
Yeah,
right on.
No one cares about you.
Yes, we do.
We're talking about.
And our new guy,
Yep.
Patty Line, is
Yes.
April 19th.
Ah, very good.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
So all the great Jets were in April.
I think. Hey, speaking of great Jets, Scott, and you, and we're joined on the line, Scott Taylor, by Game On Magazine. Check it out, gameonmag.ca. We'll talk about that in a bit. Laine versus Solani. You had a chance to see Solani when he was with the Winnipeg Jets for that handful of seasons. When you're distinguishing the difference between shot release between two of arguably, I know Laine's only in his second year, but I'm almost projecting that he could be Solani light in a sense, maybe even better. Who knows? What's the difference outside of personality between the two Finns?
Well, there isn't much difference in personality, I can tell you that. Laine is Solani heavy.
Okay.
Timu's about 6'1", tops, 190 pounds. I mean, he finished his career at about 188. He was in such great shape at the end. Completely different player than Laine. Timu was all speed all the time. Go, go, go. First to the puck. He just used his speed to an advantage that a lot of players didn't have, and that's one of the biggest reasons why he scored so many goals early in his career. Laine is a great big guy. He's 6'5", at least 6'5", and in skates looks even bigger. And when you watch him play, you think he's a little bit lumbering, but you got the same feeling about Howard-Chuck when he played, and you knew better.
Yep.
The thing about Laine is he may not look fast, but he gets to the spots all the time, and that's all you need to do. But he's got this gigantic shot. I mean, it's an uncanny thing. For 19, it's an incredible thing. He reminds you more of Brett Hull than he does of Teemu Selanne.
Right.
He's not going to win any figure skating prizes. He doesn't stick handle like Selanne did, but he gets into his spot. He sees the ice real well. He passes pretty well. But the thing about the Jets is they spend almost the entire power play getting him in that spot on the left wing to fire that one-timer right-handed. And, man, he can shoot the puck. And it still amazes people who watch the puck get to his stick and get into the net in a period of time that is difficult to record. And that's why it drives goaltenders crazy. He scores so many goals on the short side because of this incredible release. So the difference, I think, between Selanne and Laine is that Laine, A, is bigger, B, Selanne skated better, C, Laine has a bigger shot, but Selanne made plays a little bit better than Laine does. And if Laine lasts as long in his career as Selanne did in his, he's going to score an awful lot of goals.
So, Scotty, if we're looking at this team going into the playoffs, you know, if there's a healthy Laine, you know what the expectation is going to be. So where is the weakness? Where's the concern for a Flames fan? Dave and I talked about it a little bit.
Jets fans,
Sorry, Jets fans, rather. Are we talking goaltending? What would be your concern number one?
Well, I think the weakness is experience. I mean, this is a team that's never performed very well in the playoffs. In the history of the franchise, going back to Atlanta, they've made the playoffs twice and have never won a game. Now, granted, there are only 4 players left from that Thrashers team, and they're all pretty good ones. It's Bufflin, Wheeler, Brian Little, and Toby Enstrom. So you've got pretty good hockey players left over from those teams. But this team has never won a playoff game. So the question is, how do you perform as a group in the playoffs? Are you ready to win hockey games? If there's a weakness, I suppose it's defense. Although if the defense is healthy, it's pretty hard to argue. Maybe the fourth line is a weakness, but they're only going to play 6 minutes anyway. So as long as Connor Hellebuck is ready to play the goal he played during the regular season in the playoffs, and as long as this team can come to terms with playoff hockey. It's very interesting. When they last were in the playoffs, and they lost in 4 straight to Anaheim, they had the lead late in the third period in every game. And they just couldn't close the deal. So I think that's the biggest thing for this team. Are you ready to play playoff hockey, which is a completely different animal than 82 regular season games?
Well, Scott, also while we were talking...
Oh, and the other thing is, can you beat the Nashville Predators on a regular basis? They're 3-2 against, or 2-3 against Nashville this year, and Nashville has caused them fits. And you're going to have to see Nashville if you're going to win the West. So, can you beat Nashville?
Well, and here, you know, this season, unquestionably, the great story is got to be out of Las Vegas and what the Golden Knights have done. But is there an underlying feeling, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, that somehow they're just going to fold when it comes to the playoffs? Do you have that feeling as well?
I don't have the feeling they're going to fold. I think they're going to find it difficult. They have a wonderful coach. Gerard Gallant's the best coach in the National Hockey League right now. And the NHL gave them good players. And Marc-Andre Fleury, their goaltender, if he remains healthy, is a guy who has playoff winning experience. So, like, he knows what he's facing coming into this. So I don't think they're going to fold up by any sense, but I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for them. Everybody knows that playoff hockey is different. It's called differently. The officials look at it differently. It's closer checking. It's potentially 28 games, and you got to win 16 of them.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different animal. I don't think they're going to fold, but I think they're going to find it difficult.
Yeah, I think
that's still a pretty good hockey team, and they got a good goaltender.
Because the way they match up, and Mike and I discussed this before we brought you on, the way they match up right now, and of course there's still 4 or 5 games remaining in the season, Vegas would open up against Los Angeles. And if you're sitting there telling me who do you like in this series, Dave, I'm picking the Los Angeles Kings. I know they'd be considered the 7th seed, but if you're going to go to a 7-game matchup against Vegas, I like the Kings in this one.
The Kings are much grindier. They are more built for playoffs. They're bigger. They're slower.
Yeah.
The Vegas Knights are a lot faster than the LA Kings. I've seen the Kings a dozen times this year, and I got to tell you, there are nights when, boy, it looks like they're skating in sand. It's not really a fast hockey team. And if they let the Knights go, if they let them skate, Vegas will win that series. But we know it's playoff hockey. You're dragging guys around for 60 minutes. It's a whole different animal. So if LA can slow the Knights down and play their style of hockey, this grinding, slow, set it up, forecheck, if they allow them to do that, then I think the Kings have a great chance to knock them off. But I would go with Vegas if I was going to Vegas.
Yeah, we know what happened there too. These aren't great stories for the kids, just so you know. Where's Uncle Scotty? I don't know. What's the spearmint rhino? What is that? Well, is there candy there? Yeah, there is, depending on how you look at it. Yes, there is candy. You are listening to Scott Taylor here on rawmickrichards.com, broadcasting live here in downtown Toronto, courtesy of DKI Canada. And just so you know, looking at my brackets here that have burned into flames. After the first couple of days, I was pretty proud of myself, Scott. I'm taking a look at the NCAA March Madness, and I'm like, I don't think anyone knows more than me. I've got Virginia to win it all. I am the smartest man in the world. And then one by one, they come thundering down into flames. And I got to be honest, I think I take a look at really what NCAA basketball is now. And if you've got the name in the resume like a Coach Cal or sometimes, well, a lot of times Coach K, and you can get in these but the reality is you're rolling the dice on guys who still could be, almost in high school. You're going to get them for 1 year. And it doesn't guarantee almost anything where you've got a program like we've seen Loyola Chicago. They played great basketball from the moment it tipped off. And maybe we shouldn't be surprised that, those glorified teams like the Michigan States of the world and even Virginia, who for my money was the best. I watched a lot of college basketball. They were the best team in college basketball. This is a tournament. It's a one-off. So, and they're kids, and that's part of the engaging part of watching March Madness. But, do I enjoy it? I still enjoy it, except my father, who somehow is a Duke fan, and I find that completely annoying, and I'm a little happy that they're out.
First of all, how did that happen? How is anybody a Duke fan?
I don't know.
It's like cheering for the Yankees.
And he's one of the greatest, one of the most beloved people in this area of all time, and he calls, and even worse, his Dukies. Oh, my God, does that make me sick.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's terrible. It is. And by the Grayson Allen, boy, in my day, we just called them a suck. I mean, I think that's the name for it.
That's exactly right. On the playground, you're a big suck.
Yeah, something doesn't go well, he's tripping somebody, and it could be a girl. That's what's going to happen. That's Grayson Allen. I can't.
Grayson Allen, a big sucky baby. You're right. That's the way he plays. And you have to be a Duke fan to like him.
Yes.
Because nobody else does.
Yes.
I'm watching the game with people who don't watch a lot of college basketball outside the Big Ten. And they look at me and go, what's with this Grayson Allen guy? I mean, everybody who sees him play, what's with this guy?
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm kind of glad they're gone. With all due respect to your father, I'm kind of glad that they're finished. But the thing about Virginia, and I liked them all season long, and I had them to win in my bracket, and I was done in day 3.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that they lost to Baltimore County.
I know. UMBC, people don't even have heard of it before.
And then they got hammered, and then UMBC got hammered their next game.
Yeah, not surprising.
I mean, and they didn't lose. Like, Virginia got clobbered.
Yeah, wiped out.
I mean, that's it. But that's the living proof of the first thing you said. That going back through all of these brackets and everything else, it is children playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't guys with 10 years of experience in their 30s getting $10 million a year playing for their lives. These are kids playing basketball. Hey, let's go play.
And they make mistakes.
And some make mistakes. Sometimes they just don't show up.
Right. Yeah.
I bet that team to a man was in the dressing room before the game laughing about how they were going to clobber these guys.
Sure. I mean, I remember...
That's what kids are.
That Rick Barnes University of Texas team that had Kevin Durant, just how they were going to run through everything. And they came out in that first half of their first or second game and got destroyed. And that is – now, look, this is sort of bridging into a conversation we had earlier on the show where the Raptors, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I saw how their second unit was playing, philosophically how they've changed that to have quite a perimeter game. And now I'm taking a look at it, and I'm still afraid of LeBron and friends because I think LeBron is good enough even now to sit there and change an entire game, if not a series, by himself. I'd still be very afraid of what he can do.
Here's the other thing about the NBA as compared to kids basketball. The college kids play 30 games tops before the tournament, maybe 32, maybe 35, maybe some of them, but they don't play that many games. So you're not as worn out. They play mostly weekends, occasional Tuesday night for TV or something, but mostly it's a weekend affair. The NBA is a grind every night, and you go to NBA games. I mean, DeMar DeRozan is carrying around some of the best defensive guards in the NBA for 48 minutes a night, 82 times a year. And you get down to this time of the season, it's like, let's get to the playoffs, let's get this stuff done. It's over, we know what we're going to do. And again, like hockey, it becomes a whole different deal. I mean, I don't expect the Winnipeg Jets to win many games as the season goes along because they've clinched. They're into the 102 points, they're done. If they have a down night, you kind of expect it. They might lose 8-1 one night, who knows? But it's over. It's time for the playoffs. And I just think this Toronto team is going to be a little bit better than they have been in the last couple of weeks once the playoff starts because they're going to have more to play for. And they should, I suspect, have their heads together for that long 2-month grind that the playoffs take. I'm not as down on them as a lot of people are. However, when you mention LeBron, you're absolutely right. He can change everything. He can control it. The only thing he can't control is Kevin Durant hitting threes every time Cleveland answers, as we all know what happened last year.
No,
I mean, that was just a juggernaut, that Warriors team last year. If it wasn't Curry banging a three, it was Durant at 7 feet. I mean, that's a pretty scary thing to have to face. But I think Toronto's got a life. I mean, I just think that it's that time of the year. It's the dog days of March and April, and you've already clinched, and you're going to go to the playoffs, and let's get the playoffs started.
Speaking of the dog days, Scotty, we know you're a huge baseball fan. We also know that you're the editor of Game On Magazine. Check them out online, by the way, gameonmag.ca. What's coming up on the next feature of the magazine? And also, is there going to be a little bit of baseball in there? Because I know you're a huge baseball guy, and we're coming into the season. Opening day starts in, 72 hours.
We are completely a hockey magazine.
Okay.
Hockey. I believe the best in the world. My colleagues say the best in the country, but I think we're the best hockey magazine in the entire world. Our cover story in the next edition is Patrick Laine. We have a 5-page interview, just like the old-fashioned Playboy interviews.
Oh, yes.
Centerfold?
An interview with Patrick, who's a pretty funny guy. If you read the Players Tribune piece about him, he basically lives his life in front of a video game.
Yep.
And my favorite part about him is his mom comes from Finland and lives with him. It's very cool. But anyway, so our feature's on Patrick Laine, but what we've done is we've created this magazine. It's our 6th year, and we've created this magazine because the regular big-time media, the big shooter media, the big newspapers and TV and whatnot, have completely abandoned the young players in your community who play, the juniors, high school kids, the university teams. They've been completely abandoned in our community for the Jets. It's Jets. We have a tremendous relationship with the Winnipeg Jets with True North Sports and Entertainment, so we do 1 or 2 Jet stories an issue, but not very much for a 144-page magazine. It's almost entirely our 3 junior leagues, our women, our colleges, our high schools, our AAA midgets, AA bantams, and then good stories about kids that are just trying to play the game and have fun playing it. So it's really been first of all, labor of love. Second of all, it's been an opportunity for us to get back into the roots of hockey in our province because nobody else wanted to do it. And it's really been incredibly rewarding because, as you know in Ontario, as you know where you are, minor hockey, junior hockey is gigantic. And the people you watch before they get to the NHL, the fan following is incredible, and people can't get the information they want as easy as they used to be able to. So that's why we created it, and that's what we do, and we're hockey. I also do a magazine called Sports Life, which is a bunch of baseball. We have the Gold Eyes in it and all the local baseball.
Yep.
But Game On is hockey, 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 hockey.
Okay, so
Hockey.
let me ask you not a hockey question. So
Ball hockey. Yes, we have ball hockey. Ball hockey is a big supporter of our magazine. We do a lot of ball hockey. We do a lot of roller hockey as well.
Do you have bikini hockey? I'm just, hey, you're going down. Do you have bikini hockey? Because if you're going down this road, I'm just throwing stuff out. You got
well, why not? And table hockey.
Yeah.
And NHL 18.
Or boot hockey.
We'll go the route if you're going to buy an ad in my magazine. I'll go the route for you.
Boot hockey, which is what they call soccer around the world. People go, "What's that called?" We call it boot hockey. Isn't that soccer?
Boot hockey. That's
call it
right.
what you want.
Boot hockey. Yeah, it's boot hockey.
Yeah. Now, what about the? I happen to think this year that the CFL might be kind of interesting. I think some teams that weren't competitive last year, certainly in the East, are going to be. What if we're taking a look at the Blue Bombers? What kind of year are they expecting to have? Because I know year after year
they're expecting to win.
Yeah, they want to win. Okay.
But that's a team that's expecting to win. I mean, they thought they could win last year, and I think it was a very, very disappointing way to go out, losing that playoff game at home. I know that throughout that locker room that they expected to win. They had the personnel they thought was going to win them a Grey Cup, and I think the disappointment within that room is kind of incredible. You will never do the unfinished business thing again, because that's like a ticket to get yourself in trouble. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a team that expects to win. I think they expect Matt Nichols to play all 18 games and lead this team to the Grey Cup. Andrew Harris is back and he's healthy. They've picked up a couple of local kids who are good where they work, Keenan LaFrance and Nick Dembski. Their import skilled players are pretty good. I think the Bombers are a team that's ready to win. But you and I both know the Canadian Football League is interesting every year because of the one great thread of the CFL, Kevin Glenn. He has now played for every single team. There is a remarkable tweet that goes, "So what do you do?" "I play in the CFL." "For what team?" "Yep."
and you know, because I've never met Kevin Glenn, and probably all accounts.
Really, he's a wonderful guy.
I bet he is. But every time I see his face now, I get angry. I get upset.
Why?
Because stop playing for everybody. At some point, it's just annoying.
Oh, you know what? I got to tell you, I have this funny feeling that he's going to end up playing for 3 more teams this year. I mean, that's the way Kevin Glenn is. He's not going to do anything else. He's going to play quarterback for somebody in the CFL. I mean, he's had 2 trips to Winnipeg already.
Hey, if you had the opportunity, would you sign Johnny Football if in the blue sky you're a general manager of a team? Would you take on Johnny Manziel?
Absolutely. No question in my mind. First of all, you sell tickets. Second of all, you sell jerseys. Third of all, everybody deserves a second chance. Johnny seems to have repented. I follow him on Twitter. He seems to be a man who has repented, and he takes a lot of beating on Twitter and basically, with a lot of class, sloughs it off and says everybody else is wonderful. Life is grand. So I think Johnny Manziel has taken the turn, and I would love to see him in the Canadian Football League because I think he's a CFL quarterback. I think he's not Doug Flutie. He's not as smart as Doug Flutie, but I think that he's certainly a guy who would make the CFL a lot of fun, and I'd love to see him play someplace.
If you're an NFL GM, do you at least entertain having Colin Kaepernick on your team?
My wife, the Cleveland Browns fan, is just laughing so hard.
Well,
she's choking.
She better find some happiness somewhere. You know, that's a lot of rye. That's what that is. Would you sign Colin Kaepernick if you were a GM in the NFL?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, that was just, my goodness gracious. I mean, look at the people who are playing quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's looking a little
there
obvious.
Guys barely tie their own shoelaces. They got to get the trainer to tie their boots up.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious. There are teams in the National Football League, including the Cleveland Browns, who are not trying to win. They left Colin Kaepernick out there. The people that Houston signed last year, I mean, those people are in the witness protection program. I mean, their families don't even know they're still playing football.
Well, if you're signing Brock Osweiler, if you're signing Brock Osweiler, you're telling me still at this point you still would take Brock Osweiler over Colin Kaepernick, and to me that's when it starts getting embarrassing.
The crazy Minnesota Vikings just signed Trevor Siemian, or they're going after him.
Yeah.
Come on, and you're going to give $84 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins? What's he ever won? I mean, what's he ever won?
Well,
and you've given him $84 million guaranteed because, yeah, he might be better than Case Keenum.
Might be though,
should be.
We'll see.
I'm dumbstruck by how just wrong ownership and management in the NFL is about everything, from CTE to the players they sign. There are teams legitimately in the National Football League who are trying not to win.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Colin Kaepernick is sitting there.
I don't disagree. It is at some point it gets a little embarrassing. Look, you got something else, Dave?
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
We
I wanted to get this in there because I know we have a lot of new viewers listening to us, listening to Scott Taylor, and you know he's going to be more of a regular on the show from here on in. But I've never told you this story, Mike, but I wonder if Scotty remembers this one, and I'll say it right now. And you know I'm not embarrassing anybody here because it's a fantastic story. In the media business, we go through ups and downs all the time. And in Winnipeg, I went through a couple of downs and a lot of ups. And one time, I was cut from Global Television. They went through a purging, which unfortunately still exists today with a lot of smaller stations throughout Western Canada, Northern Ontario, and so forth, because sports as a whole is starting to diminish, and it's criminal because of it. So I'm cut from Global Television, and I get a phone call from Scott Taylor. And he says, let's go out. I'll take you out for some lunch, and let's talk about this. We went to Earl's, and Scotty basically put my head back on straight, saying, you know what, Dave, there's bigger things for you to come. There's the grass is going to be greener soon. Keep your head up. And Scott, just from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for that simple 2-hour lunch. I don't know if you remember it, but I'll remember it the rest of my life. And yes, there's roller coaster rides in this industry because of what we do. And this was definitely one of the biggest pick-me-ups I've ever had. And as a friend to friend, I'm publicly saying it right now. Thank you for this, and thank you for that. And you're just a fantastic guy, and I'm glad I can call you friend.
I don't know how to respond, but thank you very much. I actually have a tear. Thanks. No, I remember that day. It was a great day. This is a nasty industry. It's a rotten, lousy, nasty industry run by people who aren't very bright, and a lot of bad things happen to people. But if you're good and you're good, then everything will work out. And look, we both had downs. I had a real bad down. But if you're good at it, you just do it. And things work out, and I'm so glad that things have worked out well for you.
I'm glad you remembered the lunch, because if you said, well, Danny, Hey, Scotty, we got to run. Just love hearing your voice back on. We're going to do this on a regular basis because there's a lot of things that are going to be happening with Raw Mike Richards that I'll announce probably within the next 30, 45 days that are sort of a line in the sand, and we'll be crossing it. So we're excited about that, and we would like you to be a part of it. So I'm just thrilled that you could join us today, Prowl.
Well, I'm thrilled that you called me, and am I to call you Mike or Raw now?
You can go, well, those would be the nicest things you would call me. Take care, Scotty.
Guys, I'm off to my taxation lawyer. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Scott.
Scotty. That is the one and only Scott Taylor. Has always been such a great guy. It was nice to hear that story too, Dave, that you had brought up, because sometimes, as he said, it can be a very nasty business. And some people say, it's really cutthroat. There's a lot of sharks. The reality is that somehow, like the Peter Principle, there are people who have arisen. They're not the top guys. They circulate pretty much in the middle. And they're not all that great at their jobs. So as they cut more and more of these jobs out, some of the really good people get cast aside.
Yeah.
And it's just assumed that they have failed. In reality, they didn't fail at all. It's just the fact that those that are younger, those that are a fraction of the price of those other people.
And that's what it came down to.
And it really comes up. And it's really hard to see some of these really excellent people tossed aside. So Scott is right. You can be real bitter about it, and you can sit at home or change. A lot of people change vocations. I don't blame them for that. You've got families. You have to get money somehow. But I think the reality is, for what Dave and I have decided, is we're going to pick up some machetes and we're going to go back the other way. And as I said, very shortly, you'll see some head lopping. And if you're fans of Raw Mike Richards, you're going to be very happy with what is going to go on with this particular program. It's the reason why we didn't give up and will never give up. So it was great having Scotty on and saying those words.
And true story. Everything about it was crazy because, when you lose your job, and hopefully there aren't too many people out there that can share this, but unfortunately there are. It was weird because I thought I was on top of the world, and I still remember, and I'll always remember it, that I bought my first house a month before. So I bought this brand new house, and now everything's going towards that, and not renting and not doing this. And I got called into the news director's office, and he says, we'd like to talk to you in the GM's office. And I said, oh yeah, sure, that sounds great. And not a word of a lie, in my mind, I'm walking into the general manager's office with the news director, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting a raise. I'm going to be extended because I've been talking to him about more money. Cards on the table. I was fairly significant in Winnipeg, in that area, in the TV side of things. I had a very good mentor in Joe Pascucci, who was there for probably 30 plus years, and to this day taught me a lot about this industry, if not the most. And I walked into that office, and I sat down, and the first thing the general manager says to me is, "This isn't going to be a very good conversation."
Oh, great! Thanks.
And I go from this right down to ground level, and the rest is history, obviously. And it's like Scott said, it's like I said, it's like you said, it's here today, you're the flavor of the month, the next day you're the scum of the earth, the next day you're back up. Somebody likes you, somebody doesn't. And it's too bad sometimes in this industry, people that are a lot less qualified than you are making the decisions based on what they think.
Hey, some of these people who are making decisions haven't been in this industry before. Like it's tough when you're being told that your job is you're being bought out, or you're being let go by someone who's not even in your business. I mean, how would you feel if you worked at an IT company and someone who was a butcher told you that you weren't good enough to do your job? How do you know? And by the numbers, apparently that's not true anyway. So that's where I think some of the although tomorrow, so a good friend Claude Fag, so I have to go into Centennial College tomorrow and speak to the students. I'm taking sports radio. You might want to wear a helmet for that one, kids. You're not going to like what I have to say. Everyone's a fucking bastard. I'll try to be as positive as I can and be as realistic as I can. But it is an industry. If this is what you're looking forward to, you might want to take this model that we've done with Ron Mike Richards closer to heart than actually trying to catch on doing broadcast for a big company, because those jobs are being slowly, bit by bit, thrown away. So it's a little tough. The only radio company left, as far as I'm concerned, I don't mind saying it, is Rogers. Rogers still at its heart still understands radio and still has a love for it. The other ones, it's real debatable. Bell has none. They should never be in that industry. Rogers is still at heart, like Ted Rogers, like his love for the start of what he became and what he built. Rogers is still in it. So for what it's worth, that's just our take on the current status of sports broadcast. I do want to get some things in before we go. Now I don't even. Do we trust this thing to work? Okay, here's
give it a whirl.
Here's Zion Williamson.
Oh,
so this is so McDonald's has their high school all-stars, right?
This is massive.
This is huge, and this is the Powerade Slam Dunk Contest, which sometimes, and for me, and we talk about it, has it jumped the shark. There was a time where just doing a two-handed dunk would have been good enough. Look at the dunks that these guys, remember, high school students, a lot of them, they've already committed to other schools. Saw LeBron do the very same thing. Here's Zion Williamson. Look what he has to do as a high school student to win a slam dunk competition, brought to us by ESPN. I'm sure it's their property. Here is Zion Williamson.
Zion, yes, sir!
So basically almost what Vince Carter had to do to win it in the NBA.
I see some nines over there. Giving him nines.
And nines.
No, nines.
Nines. That was a high school kid.
What y'all doing?
What y'all doing?
We got some haters over here.
How true is that?
How many times it took? Off the back to be able to do this, I don't care how many times it took. That's all 10s.
Yeah,
Off
and
the
that's a
glass,
9.
Between the legs, there should be nothing but 10s.
I would love to see somebody lower the rim to 7 feet and try to do that on a 7-foot rim.
Look at that.
Tony Dell, do that on a 7-foot rim, Tony.
And by the way, he's
left-handed.
left-handed. He's left-handed. This next dunk he does, I believe, is a right hand. Now, before you think, what's so big about that dunk?
What's that?
He brings the ball below his waist into his back pocket.
Took it back out again and dunked. Very hard. That's what that was.
He tried to put the ball back down on the ground. That's what he tried to do. That's better than some of the dunk competitions in the NBA.
It is amazing. And then he does like the Dominique, but watch how low the ball goes when he brings it down and brings it back up. It really is remarkable. The vertical's incredible. Watch this.
And I win.
Just amazing.
So grade 12, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, so he'd be 12th grade, and then now he's
committed to college soon.
And
yeah.
I don't know what his what he committed to. I don't. Dude.
No,
hey,
he's a Duke Blue Devil.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna end on a happy note. Yesterday, because that made me sad. We've had such a great show, and now that made me sad. Russell once again bringing the show down. David Lee Roth, we played that dry tape of him, no effects, singing "Running with the Devil."
Yep.
What a lot of people don't know is he had another album. It didn't sell as well, but have a listen. I think it's pretty good. Hey, we're gonna end the show on this one. Go ahead. Let's hear Dave.
From Former Brothers, it's David Lee Roth. He's back and better than ever on this album called Pretty Good Hits.
Ooh, coming, a chameleon. He comes and goes.
David Lee Roth, he's really quite good. David Lee Roth from Former Brothers Records, singing songs like the A&W Root Beer song and such favorite hits as this particular selection.
Young and the restless, young and the restless. I don't think there's any words to this.
In stores today.
Oh, the screams. Oh, Diamond Dave.
Just become best friends.
Just to be him for one day in like
1986.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right after Van Halen 1984 with the baby with the cigarette in his mouth. That would never survive today. Remember that one?
He had something called Club Dave. For those of you who know, I hope you weren't invited. But Club Dave was something that he did each and every city he went to. It was good to be Dave.
Let's get ready to rock.
I'd like to thank our good friend Scotty Taylor from Game On Magazine. Go to gameonmagazine.ca.
Yeah, gameonmag.ca.
Gameonmag.ca. It's great to have him back on the show. Loved it. Make sure you subscribe at the bottom corner. Hit it. We appreciate it. We love it. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you tomorrow.